Shalom to Laurie Cardoza-Moore, president and producer of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations.
Shalom.
So you're involved these days in fighting, in the struggle, the battle against the BDS campaign.
Absolutely. Well, in Tennessee, earlier this year, we launched a campaign to expose the BDS movement here in the United States, particularly on what was happening on college campuses. Our interest was started when New York State Senator Klein considered introducing a piece of legislation that we wanted to introduce here in Tennessee. Unfortunately, Senator Klein pulled the legislation because he was concerned that it would not pass constitutional muster. We took the legislation and we had our attorneys, we worked with Stan with us to draft a resolution that would be used in Tennessee to try to educate not just our state legislators about this growing problem, these Israel apartheid demonstrations and the violence that was happening on other college campuses across the U.S., but we felt like this would be also a great way of educating the citizens about this new anti-Semitic movement that was happening nationwide. So we introduced a resolution here in Tennessee. It passed. 2 days later, excuse me, the state of Indiana introduced a similar resolution as what we passed in Tennessee. And since then, momentum is growing. New York State and the state of Pennsylvania, actually the House of Representatives in the state of Pennsylvania introduced the same resolution and passed it. We have a total of 35 states and 6 countries, Yoni, who have requested further information, the resolution to introduce not just in our state legislatures, but in parliaments in 6 countries as well.
So Laurie, what do you define as the goal in this battle?
Our goal is to have all 50 states by the end of this year, and I think at the rate that we're going, we will accomplish that goal. We're using this and launching a media campaign to coincide with it in order to raise awareness that this is anti-Semitism. And this is an attack. Not only are they targeting Jewish students on college campuses, but now they're attacking and targeting Christian Zionist students as well. And our goal is to completely obliterate BDS and crush it here in the United States.
Now, one of the methods that you're using now is the field of video, of film.
One of the ways that we are trying to educate the millennial generation on college campuses throughout the United States and around the world is by producing a documentary called Israel, the Apartheid State, ? And the film is going to be produced for a millennial generation. We're going to use satire, but we're going to educate and inform the younger audience, the millennial audience, but also educate and inform people of our age as well, because it's critically important that people understand in a way that they can comprehend. You know, film and media can be like a Trojan horse in this battle, and as a Trojan horse to try to change the thoughts view of Israel, because Israel is always marginalized and is accused of being apartheid, that they're oppressing people's rights. And we were just in Israel. We filmed some interviews with some great Arab Palestinians who told us, who worked for Israeli companies in Judea and Samaria, and told us that if they did not have this job, their families would die. We interviewed one man that was a plant manager for one company, an Israeli-owned company, for 26 of the 30 years that this company had been in business. We interviewed a woman who has been with the same company for 16 years. She travels from Jericho every day through checkpoints. I asked her, are you having a problem getting through checkpoints? Are you being suppressed? Are your rights being suppressed? Are you treated fairly in your job? I was shocked at the response from her, because it's not the response that we're hearing in the mainstream media. This is a message that people need to hear throughout the world, and this message is being suppressed. We hear lies. There was one gentleman that a plant manager from another company in Ariel, who was talking about how he was, how his boss was hosting cookouts for Arab and Israeli families, where they were bringing their families together and having picnics. They were celebrating holidays. They would have a meal for the Arabs, the Muslims, during their holiday time. So these are not the stories that we hear. And that's our goal, is to interview these people on the ground to show the truth. In fact, the woman that I interviewed, I asked her, I said, you know, the world wants Israel to give up this land. What will happen to you and your job if Israel has to retreat from this land? She said, my family will die, because there is no work in the Palestinian controlled areas.
You're receiving harsh reactions to your pro-Israel activity?
We have not seen any at this point. I'm sure they're out there. I know that there was some opposition in Illinois and in Indiana. But you know, all we have to do, there is truth that is evident in all of us. And if we can just bring the people the simple, unvarnished truth, people will get it. They will understand. Most Americans, Yoni, 70%, there was a Gallup poll back in February of this year. 70% of Americans support Israel because Americans understand what's at stake. We're watching Christians being slaughtered in the Middle East. You have Christians in Nazareth, a Greek Orthodox priest who is calling on Christians to have their children join the IDF to fight, to defend the land of Israel, because there is no safe place for Christians in the Middle East. Americans get it. We were hit on 9/11 by the same enemies that have been targeting Israel for centuries. And I believe that the support is on our side. We just have to give people the facts about what is really happening and why Americans have to stand with Israel, because Israel is on the front line of this battle. And if being the front line of defense, if we as Americans do not support Israel on her front line of defense, they're coming after the second line of defense, and that's the United States.
Laurie Cardoza-Moore, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Yoni.